Good afternoon. My name is Carol Noker, and I am the Real World Learning Facilitator at Sniffle High School. I'm also a member of the Northland Education and Business Alliance, what we call NEBA. NEBA is a network of education and business organizations in Clay and Platte Counties whose vision is to promote and provide business-driven educational opportunities for you, our next generation of business leaders. I will be your host during this session, but we have another NEBA member working in the background, Courtney Reyes with the KC Home Builders with us. Just a few quick notes before we get to introduce our guest speakers for this session. This session will run for 40 minutes with a hard stop at 12:40. Our industry experts will begin by sharing their professional history and insight, but we want this to feel more like a conversation. So at the bottom of your screen, you should see an option to use the Q&A feature. We encourage you to use that space to post any questions you might have at any point in the session. We might not be able to get to all of them, but we'll do our very best. When this session ends, you'll be asked to take a very short survey. Please give us your feedback on this event so we can get better at hosting things like this in the future. And last but not least, this session will be recorded and available on NEBA's YouTube channel in the near future. Okay, so let's get started. I'd like to go ahead and introduce our panelists, Jessica Murphy with the Kansas City Zoo and Emily McVey with KC Animal Health. Take it away.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jessica Murphy with the Kansas City Zoo. I am an instructor at the Kansas City Zoo's education department. So my job is to go out and teach people. I travel to schools, libraries, and community events to help people learn about animals. And we work with everywhere from pre-K up to adults and senior citizens. So we see quite a range. My job is a little unique in that I have a second half of my job that is to help take care of the animals that are our teaching animals. So they're called animal ambassadors, and they travel with us to different community events to help people learn by seeing an animal in person. So as part of my role, I am there in the trenches, cleaning and feeding and doing all of their enrichment and daily care. But that helps me spend a lot of time with them to make sure that they are trained properly for all of their programs.
Fantastic. Oh, that sounds like so much fun. Emily, you want to jump in there?
Absolutely. So I'm Emily McVey. I am the Vice President of the Animal Health Corridor. And the Animal Health Corridor is based here in Kansas City, and we are an industry association. So our members are the large pharmaceutical and pet nutrition companies that keep our food supply safe and our pets safe. And so as an industry association, while we're based in Kansas City, I really have the privilege of working with companies globally because animal health is a global industry. And so a lot of my time is spent in workforce development. So our board is comprised of the CEOs of the large pharmaceutical and pet nutrition manufacturers. And they come around the table with a shared interest that the rising tide floats all ships, right? So I always say that animal health is very collegial and unique. I couldn't imagine Ford and General Motors and Toyota sitting around a board table working on issues. But in animal health, we have real issues that impact people and animals that it's going to take all of us to accomplish feeding a growing world population, as well as taking care of some of our most beloved family members, our pets. And so one of those shared interest areas is in workforce development, which is a category that I lead for our business. And that's how do we drive more talent into the animal health industry, and how do we expose individuals to a broader awareness of what careers in animal health might look like. It could very much look like Jessica's career at the zoo. It could look like a veterinarian, but it could also be a non-scientific career, or perhaps you don't even need a degree to go into an animal health career. You could probably just have a high school diploma for certain positions. And so I do a lot of that awareness. And then I also help lead our innovation strategy. And so in animal health, we have a lot of really big companies, and we don't have so many middle market companies. And so external innovation happens with smaller entrepreneurial companies. And so each year, the end of August, we host a Shark Tank event for animal health companies in Kansas City, which I get the privilege of helping help organize. And these are companies that come in from all around the world. Many of them have cashed out their 401ks, and they feel like they have that next generation idea that's going to transform the industry. and a pitch to financial partners and capital, just like you see on Shark Tank on ABC, but also strategic partners. And so I did not grow up in animal health or agriculture, but I found my way here really through some serendipitous relationships. And so I'm not a scientist by background. I work with a lot of scientists, but that's a little bit about my organization and why Kansas City. I think it's important to note because people say, well, why is the Animal Health Corridor headquartered here? We have the single largest concentration of global animal health assets. So over 56% of revenues for the animal health industry globally are derived from companies that are located in the Kansas City region. We take a pretty liberal definition of Kansas City, extending from Columbia, Missouri to Manhattan, Kansas, and north to Maryville and south to Emporia. But that really goes back to the heritage of our agriculture roots with the stockyard. So I think it's important to note why Kansas City, and that there's opportunities not to just land a job in animal health here in Kansas City, but to build your career.
Wow, one more thing for us to claim to fame, right? That's fantastic. So it sounds like your normal work days are going to look a little bit different. So can you talk about what a normal day would look like for you, Jessica?
Absolutely. So typically in the morning, I come in, and just like humans, everybody wants their breakfast in the animal world. So we make sure that we go around and get everybody fed, check to make sure that everyone looks healthy from overnight. Nothing happened that we need to monitor or be concerned about. Make sure if any animals are on any medication, that's administered. And then we start cleaning, and cleaning is a pretty big chunk of our day. We can't be too afraid of poop in order to work with animals in any facet. But we have about 50 individual animals in our animal ambassador building called the Zoo Learning Den. There are of those about 40 different species, and we have birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, all sorts of animals, just about everything except for fish right now. So every animal has its unique needs as far as how it's cleaned for, how it's cared for. So we go through and make sure everyone's ready for the day. Try to mimic their natural habitat as much as we can. So we try to make sure that the food they're getting is something close to or meeting the nutritional needs of what they would get in the wild. And we also do a lot of enrichment. Now, you might not usually use the term enrichment. Often we say playing or sports, but we do a lot of enrichment for ourselves in our daily lives, things that make us think, that get our body moving, help keep us stimulated. So if you play sports, if you like to read books, watch movies, any sort of activity that you consider fun and recreational, we do a lot of those things at the zoo for our animals. So since they can't exactly join a sports team, we bring different activities to them. And that takes up a good chunk of our day, helping make sure that they are fulfilled and well balanced. And then, depending on my schedule, I might have to travel anywhere from right here in Kansas City to up to about an hour and a half away to help teach some people. We often take live animals with us, as I said, those friends back at my building, and they help us to demonstrate all sorts of different topics. It might be as simple as, how do you tell a bird from a reptile, from a mammal? Or it might be, why are certain animals facing threats of extinction or habitat loss? So we can cover a lot of different topics depending on our audience and what their needs are.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like so much fun. Can I come and hang out with you for a day?
Absolutely.
I would love it. And I know the kids respond well to that as well. So Emily, tell us about a day for you.
Yeah, like Jessica, my day varies, but unfortunately, I don't get to work hands-on with animals every day, although I wish some days that I did. So mine is generally people interaction. And that could look like what we're doing right here via Zoom. I work with clients and companies all over the world. So my day might start very, very early in the morning based on time zone, or it might go very, very late into the evening. Pre-COVID, I was attending a lot of conferences, industry trade shows that bring the global animal health industry and thought leaders together. Those have been on pause the past couple years, although they are picking back up. And then working for an industry nonprofit association, we run very lean, right? So we're not a for-profit entity. So both our financial resources as well as our staff resources are very, very thin. So I always say that I'm everything from the custodian to the mailroom operator to the strategist and managing our board. So my day can look very, very different. You know, yesterday I was heavily involved in event planning meetings for our August event and meeting with vendors and meeting with companies and speakers and working on script development. Before this meeting, I was meeting with our marketing agency to discuss our PR strategy for the year. Later today, I'll be working with a company that is looking to relocate to the Kansas City region because of the business opportunities from a workforce and financial investment standpoint. And so working with their legal team and their chief financial officer to navigate the incentives process for relocating. So my day is varied. I say no day is the same. And for my personality, that works really well. Others, you know, they want to know what their day is and it's very systematic. That's not me. And that's not my personality. So this kind of lifestyle fits me well.
That's important to note as well for any of those students out there that are looking at different careers. To know your personality and what fits well for you is really important to take a look at that, and the fact that you're wearing so many different hats. Fantastic. So leading into this next question then, what are some of the most essential or transferable skills needed to enter this profession? Emily, we can start with you this time.
Yeah, so I mentioned I didn't come from animal health. My undergraduate degree, I went to Rockhurst University here in Kansas City. My undergraduate degree is in exercise physiology and kinesiology. And I had every intent to go to physical therapy school. I grew up in a medical family, and so I wasn't aware of career opportunities available to me. And when I was in high school, they didn't have all these tracks that you could choose from, which I'm so jealous of. So I was kind of floundering. And when I decided I'd gotten accepted to physical therapy school, and when I decided I didn't want to do that, I was kind of left with what do I want to do with an exercise physiology and kinesiology degree. And luckily I had a professor who said, if you're going to be in the medical field, you need some business acumen. And I think that's really important because many times private practitioners can go out of business because they don't know how to run their business, and you're going to be running a business. And so I had taken enough credits to go on to get my MBA immediately after. And I would say, you know, my job at the corridor is I'm a marketer, I'm a storyteller, and I'm a collaborator. And even though I had no background in an agrarian lifestyle or in animal health, I was able to learn it. And so I think just being open to learning and then also being able to strategically prioritize what's coming at you, especially working at a nonprofit where you don't have a lot of resources, is really important. But I would say the key takeaway that you need is business acumen. Everything's a business. The school district is a business. The zoo is a business. Everything is a business. And so if I could say there was one skill that I would think that everybody needs, no matter if they're going into a career field like mine or the animal health industry or a career like Jessica's, is business acumen, because every decision you make affects the bottom line and you need that global understanding of business.
Good, very good point. I'm interested to hear your take on this, Jessica, since you're in kind of quite a bit different area. So tell us what you think the most essential or transferable skills would be needed in your position.
Absolutely. Well, actually, I agree quite heavily with Emily. A lot of the points she made were spot on with my job as well. I would say that one of the things that is very helpful in any job, as well as business acumen, is communication. If you can talk to people, if you can communicate through writing, through body language, you use that in no matter what job you do, no matter if you have a job or not. It's a very critical life skill. And the more you fine tune it and improve it, the better off you're going to be in the long run. I also took a roundabout way to get to my job. I attended the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I started out as a zoology major. So it seemed right on track. I decided zoo animals sounded like fun. There was a local zoo in town that I would go visit and volunteer with, and that's what I was going to do. So I spent 2 years trying very hard to be a zoology major, but science and math classes are not one of my strong suits. And after working with tutors and TAs and my professors and even my roommates trying to pass just the basic level classes and not doing well, I finally had to reevaluate what I was planning on doing with my life. And if it meant enough to keep continuing on this track and possibly fail out of college, which was quite a shock to me because I had entered in an honors program. So I had always spent my life, if you do the homework and follow the prescribed route, you will get there. And that was a big learning point for me of sometimes it's not where you think you want to go, but where your strengths take you. So instead, I decided to change to an English literature major because I enjoyed that immensely. And I did a lot of volunteering and a lot of internships and even some fellowships. So after I graduated school, I went to Washington, D.C. to the National Zoo and did an internship. I traveled down to Florida to a wildlife rehabilitation clinic and did a fellowship down there. I worked at a humane society, at a cat spay and neuter clinic. I had a pet sitting business, kind of did a little bit of everything and really found out what exactly I enjoyed. And I learned through continuing to volunteer at my local zoo that that was really what I found fun, was talking to people, helping them learn about animals, appreciate them more. So it took me 10 years to get where I wanted to be, but I've been here for over 6 years now and I absolutely love it. And just like Emily said, every single day is different and you have to be willing to roll with the punches. So sometimes, even if you think you've got your day mapped out and you know what you're going to do when, something crops up that you don't expect, and you've got to be able to adjust and well as communicate with your coworkers and your team around you so that you can make sure everything gets done that needs to get done. And if you don't get to all those ideal sort of level items that aren't critical that they happen that day, that's okay. You've also got to learn to just let it go and know that tomorrow's a whole nother day to tackle.
I'm hearing a few different essential skills, but yes, that flexibility and maybe dealing with some ambiguity, communication, business acumen, all of those things that our workforce is telling us our students need improvement in. So good to hear it from you as well. What were there any specific certifications or degrees that you needed specifically for your position in your industry?
Good question. For my position specifically in the education department, there wasn't a degree that I needed. A lot of my coworkers have previously been teachers or have worked with children and audiences in some manner. Others have had a biology or some sort of science degree and background. In order to work on the animal care side of things, most people follow some sort of science or biology degree or track. If you want to be on the education, instructional side of things, often it's something more school related, learning, being a teacher, something like that, but it's not required. A lot of businesses now are looking at, do you have a college degree? Great. You have the basic skills that we need to be able to teach you all the fine points you need to know here. But you've got those communication skills. You know how to write, you know how to read, you know, all of those base level items. So while it's very helpful and it can help boost you to have a degree that directly backs where you think you'd like to go, it's not always critical. But if you don't have it, you have to be accepting that it might take some time in order to get the job you want. You might have to go through a lot of applications and interview processes and do a lot of time volunteering or picking up little odd jobs to get you the experience that they really want you to have in order to be able to build on what you know.
I'm hearing again that stress on essential skills, very important. Emily, what about you? Degrees, certifications needed for where you are?
No, not for working specifically at the animal health corridor. And I just say for industry specifically, to work at the company it's wide varying. Like I mentioned in my introductory remarks, you know, you can get a wonderful career within animal health with just a high school diploma, or some sort of work ready credential, more than a high school degree and less than associate's degree, and a lot of the companies that we work with also offer some sort of tuition assistance if you want to go back and further your skills or get increased professional or personal development as well. So, and then there are certainly careers within animal health that you have to have a degree, right? If you're going to be a veterinarian, you have to have a DVM. Like, you have to be a doctor of veterinary medicine, and you have to be credentialed and board certified. And so it is wide varying, but at the corridor specifically, no. I do a lot of professional development. Right now, one of the initiatives that we've added to our organization is around diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I'm in a certification coursework for that, so that I can get additional learnings to help me do my job in areas that I'm not as familiar with.
Okay. So it does sound like the next question I have, this kind of leads into it, as to related to promotion within your industry. And are there a lot of opportunities, and what kind of requirements as far as certifications and degrees would we be required of that? And it sounds like it's very varied, at least in the area that you're speaking about.
Yeah. And I always say there's really no glass ceiling in animal health. And everybody's story is so individual and different. I would say the key theme when you think about career progression, and I think you hear this in Jessica's and I's story as well, is that careers are nebulous. And it's not like you graduate and you get this job and you work in the job so long and then you get this job and then it's slated up. And I don't think that's unique to animal health or our careers. I think that's just jobs in general. If you talk to somebody probably even at 35 or 40 and say, where did you think you would be when you were starting out? It's probably very different. And their road to that has been affected by personal life changes or opportunities or just networks or things that they didn't even see were possible. So I just want to hit on that point, because I know I had the mindset that careers were like a ladder and you just work your way up, and that's just not the case.
Not as much as it used to be, I would say. I agree. Jessica, do you have anything to add to that? Are there, as far as opportunities for promotion and required education?
Like Emily said, it tends to vary. Often longevity is rewarded, but not necessarily. One of the things you have to look at anywhere in the animal care field is precisely what you'll be doing and how your body can handle that. If you are doing something like an animal care specialist where you're taking care of animals every day, at some point, you're simply not going to be able to do the physical work. And at that juncture, you're probably going to be looking to change to a slightly different career. Might still be within the same organization you're at, but you might not want to lift 50-pound bags of animal chow every day or be scooping a truckload of elephant poop. So even if there are opportunities for advancement, you've got to keep in mind that sometimes moving up to the next level isn't the best fit for you.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Okay, so this is one of my favorite questions on the list here. What do you love about what you do? Jessica, you can go first.
Oh, what do I love? The variety. I love that on any given day, I'm working with so many different organisms. I'm working with a large education staff here at the zoo. I'm interacting with all of the animal care specialists. We often refer to them as zookeepers, but they do so much more than just keep the animals. So I'm working with them to make sure that all of our animals' needs are met. Working with the veterinary staff in case there are any concerns to make sure our animals are well cared for, because we have a cradle to grave program at the Kansas City Zoo. So every animal we are going to take care of for their entire life, whether they are in the prime of their life and doing well and doing their particular job at the zoo, or whether they are elderly and retired and just living out their best years. So I'm interacting with a lot of different people, but I'm also interacting with a lot of different animals. And that really keeps me thinking every day. So not knowing what to expect fully out of any given day is keeping the mystery alive for me and keeps me excited and coming back each day.
I think we can all relate to that. How about you, Emily? What's the thing that you love most about what you do?
I think I love the industry the most. Like I'm a person that I have to start with why. I don't want to know what you do or what your organization is or who they are. I want to know why they do what they do. And that's something that the animal health industry and taking care of our food supply and ensuring that there's food security and equality across the world, as well as keeping our pets safe, is just a true mission that I believe in. And I think it's pretty easy for me, at least, to believe in that. And so working with the companies that are doing so much good, they're doing good here in Kansas City and in our community, but they're doing good in communities across the world. And they're very collegial, like I said. So yes, they're fierce competitors in the marketplace and they're selling products that compete with each other. But they understand this higher good and they're willing to work together. And so I feel very privileged that I'm sitting in a seat where I get to work with all of them, and I'm not just working with one of them, but I get an understanding and I can have conversations about the impact that their individual companies are doing, but also the greater good.
Oh, that's awesome. That's fulfilling for you for sure. It makes coming into work every day a lot easier, I would imagine. Okay, so on the flip side of that, what is the most challenging thing about your career, Emily?
Yeah, I think the management of resources. I mean, we do at the corridor, we do a lot. And sometimes I think there's so much more we could be doing. And so it's challenging because, financially we have to work within the constraints of our budget and being a nonprofit, and then the staff resources. And so I think at times it's challenging for me to kind of pare back what we should be doing, because I think there's so much opportunity and just staying really laser focused. And we operate like an entrepreneurial company when it's lean. So we're doing a lot. There's really no down seasons, for us. And so that can be challenging as well.
Oh, sure. Jessica, what about you? What's the most challenging thing about your career, aside from the poop?
Aside from the poop, yes. I would say the fact that there isn't really a day off. Every single day the animals insist on being fed, whether it's a holiday or it's a weekend or the sun is shining or it's blowing snow. And so sometimes it can be difficult just to physically make it into work if the weather elements are against you. But we have to make sure someone comes in every single day. So my typical schedule is that I'm off on Sundays and Mondays right now, but I've had Tuesday, Wednesday days off. I've had Thursday, Friday. It could be anywhere in the week because someone has to cover every single day. And so we often try to look out for each other and take turns covering holidays so that we can each have some time with our families and friends. But it's something that you definitely give up when you start working directly with animals, is that freedom to choose your work schedule.
That's applicable to any industry where they're, any position where they're working directly with the animals. That's something you really maybe wouldn't think about, but yes, they do need, just like humans, they need those basic essentials every day. Okay, one more question. What is the most rewarding thing about your career? And you can go ahead and start, Jessica.
Oh, the most rewarding thing I find is when someone is amazed by what they learn. So often we'll learn a new fact in our day and we're like, oh yeah, that was really cool. But every so often we hit a day where we just come home and we're like, you won't believe what I learned today. And I get a lot of those experiences every day in my job of just watching other people experience that. It might be overcoming a fear of a certain animal. something like a snake, a tarantula, something that they've grown up hearing was scary and dangerous. And I'm able to present it in a way where it's not so scary and not so dangerous. And this particular individual is a great tool to learn with because they're well trained and they're not going to cause you any harm. And so once we overcome and get past some of that fear, it might not all be gone, but we can often eliminate enough of it that they can start to genuinely learn about the animal. What makes them special and unique? Why are they valuable in the world? And I love that light bulb moment of, wow, this animal that I've always hated or thought was useless really does good.
Oh my gosh, awesome. So I imagine you work a lot with kids. And so I can just imagine the looks on their faces, especially with maybe some of the other more exotic animals. So
Absolutely.
what a fun perspective. I love that. Okay, Emily, what about you? What's the most rewarding thing about your career?
So I think two things equally. One is very student related. We do a lot of work in career awareness and closing that interest gap. And so seeing those, like Jessica, seeing those aha moments or those light bulb moments are really impactful for me, especially for students maybe that are underserved or that are not 4-year bound. I have a personal passion for that, that they can see that there is a career field waiting for them and that they have job opportunities, and that can create sometimes even really socioeconomic change and generational change for their family. The other thing is in our innovation category, watching these companies get funded. I think at times we look at entrepreneurials and we know that they're entrepreneurs and we know that they're risk takers, but what we fail to see is the personal sacrifice they've made. They've cashed out 401ks, they've second mortgaged their house. Like, they believe in these ideas, and it is a tough road. But our industry and every industry relies on entrepreneurs and that next generation of innovation. And so seeing those ideas become a business plan and working with those companies on developing their business plan and then watching them get funded and then seeing the product on the shelf, like, that is a huge win, because I know for that person and that family and for our industry, it is making very impactful change.
Oh, awesome. How fun. Courtney, do we have anything that came up in the chat as far as questions?
No, I don't have anything in the chat. And guys, if you're on here and you would like to ask any questions, please feel free to do that. But I guess my last question, the one I always like to ask is, for those out there looking to get into your careers, do you guys have any advice for them, or, kind of words that you'd leave them with as they look at, what their futures might look like? Jessica, you want to go first?
Sure. My words of advice would be, don't be afraid to try it. A lot of times we think we know what we would enjoy, but until we've actually gotten in there and gotten our hands dirty, it's hard to know. And also, don't be afraid to research it. So if you look into some jobs, you'll find that, wow, I'm not sitting around cuddling and playing with the animals all day. It has a very different list of duties.
Yeah.
And that's important to be aware of. So try absolutely every job opportunity that comes across you. You never know what you're going to stumble into, that you'll just say, wow, like Emily said at the beginning, I had no idea this existed, but it's perfect for me. Sometimes even as you try different things, jobs will be made to fit you because they will see that you have a particular skill set that they could use, but they hadn't had anyone previously with those skills. So being willing to try lots of things can really lead you in some amazing directions.
Really good advice.
Yeah, I love that. I always say, you can do anything. It's about, it's about knowing what you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
very true.
Emily, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I echo Jessica's comments. I'd also, Jessica and I have a common theme in our story that we thought we were going to get a certain degree and we didn't. And when that doesn't pan out, that doesn't mean your life is over, that you can't enter a similar field, I would stay curious. I would also not eliminate yourself from industries because of your lack of awareness. So a lot of times people say, I don't want to go into animal health because I don't want to be a veterinarian. Well, you don't have to be, you know, we need lawyers and engineers and marketing professionals and sales folks. And so, but back to your question, Courtney, about if students are interested in careers in animal health, next Thursday, February 24th. So if you're watching it on demand and you've missed this, I apologize. We are hosting a career exploration webinar where we have 6 animal health companies presenting on the types of individuals they employ, where to find internship opportunities, and where to find entry-level employment. I'm so happy to share that link with you after the event to share out through your networks, but we'll continue through the Animal Health Corridor to host those types of events because career awareness and exploration is a key pillar of our business.
Oh, that's amazing.
Okay.
Yes, please, please, please share that. We're happy to push that out. I'm going to go ahead and read. There's a question in our little box. So it says, "Hi, my name is Dulce Reyes, and I am interested in pursuing a career as a veterinarian. I have job shadowed in local animal clinics and have also done an internship in one as well. I love learning. It's why I want to pursue this career for its adversity and to improve animal welfare as well. I am currently looking for opportunities to gain experience of different animal professions. Are there any open opportunities at the zoo for high school juniors?"
Ooh, excellent question. So because of the pandemic, some of our opportunities have pulled back a little bit. As I said earlier, our staff are very critical in helping take care of those animals every day. We can't necessarily have someone off the street come in and know what the animal needs and how to care for them. So we don't have as many right now, but there are different programs available through the zoo as well as different camps and things. So if you check out our website, that can be a really good resource. While it might be harder to find experience with exotic animals, like ones that live at the zoo, a lot of the same information applies to those domestic species that we think of at a typical vet clinic. So learning how to tell if an animal might be overweight, how to tell if it's not feeling well, what body signals it gives you to tell that something's going on, can kind of apply across the species. So you don't necessarily have to have experience in an exotic setting in order to get experience that is applicable for an exotic setting.
Okay, and what is your website, Jessica, just so she has that?
Yes, absolutely. It's kansascityzoo.org.
.org. Don't forget that piece. Okay, any other questions?
I do not see any. So ladies, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. Did you have a piece that you needed to read off, Carol?
Just to say thank you. I hope the people in the audience enjoyed hearing about one of thousands of amazing career opportunities that exist right here in Kansas City. Please be sure to take a minute or two to complete the survey that will pop up on your screen after this session ends. This will help us ensure that we are bringing you helpful and relevant content. To find more information on educational programs or career opportunities related to our industry discussed today, please be sure to visit nebaworkskc.org. Again, that's .org. Be sure to register for more Career Speaker Series events on our website and have a wonderful